Holy chit. That's right, C-H-I-T, chit, just like the last sweet potato video. But would you look at these things? These sweet potatoes have chitted and grown some slips, and I'm going to show you what to do with them next. So back in March, I was showing you all how we start the chitting process for our sweet potatoes. And if you remember from that video, these sweet potatoes were actually ones that we grew in our garden last year, and these were just the really small leftovers that we didn't consume. So I decided to use them this year instead of store-bought potatoes to chit and hopefully grow some slips. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but as you can see, they actually took off pretty well. They did take a lot longer than I anticipated. They're usually about 6 to 8 weeks, and you should have some good slips to work with. But by the 8-week point, I was really only having some little tiny things popping off, just like this, if you can see that here. Now, on the day of filming this video, it's actually June 13th, and we got a lot of stuff in our garden late this year because we had late frost here in Michigan and lots of super cool temps in the evenings. But for here in our zone, we actually have up until the end of June to get these into the ground to grow some sweet potatoes for this year. So in this video, I want to show you the next part of the process is what do we do with these slips or these vines that have started growing off of these sweet potatoes? Once you have some fully developed sweet potato slips like these here, we actually want to cut off about a 6-inch piece. We're going to place it in a glass of water. And after about a week, you're going to have a pretty developed root system that you can then plant out into your garden. Now, one way you can do this is you can actually go down to where that slip meets the sweet potato and snap it off at the sweet potato. However, I don't like to do it this way because I like to encourage more growth from more slips, and we're growing somewhere around 100 sweet potato plants this year, so we need as many as we can get. So rather than breaking off that whole cluster at the sweet potato, if you go above it a bit and leave some of that little stem of that slip on there, it's going to allow it to develop a new slip faster than if you took that whole piece off. Now, in the case of this long slip that I was holding up here, this is about 2 feet in length or so. This can actually turn into multiple sweet potato plants. So what I would do is come down here, because I still want to leave some of this growing off the potato to encourage more growth. I'm going to cut this right below this leaf here. Now you can see I cut it right below where that leaf joins the main stem. And then I'm going to snip off that leaf, or you could probably just break it off with your hands as well. Now, if you stick this into a glass of water, that's going to encourage root growth from both of those spots where we cut. However, because this is still a long slip, we can get more plants out of this. I'm thinking from this piece alone, I can actually get 3 sweet potato plants. So I'm going to cut it up here, right below this leaf. Snip that leaf off. We'll stick that in some water. I'm going to do the same thing at this point. Cut off that bottom leaf. Place it in water. And then here's where we have our initial cut from the base of the plant. So right there off that one slip, we now have 3 sweet potato slips that are going to root, and then we can plant them as 3 separate sweet potato plants in the garden. Now looking at some of these smaller slip developments, like right here, these aren't quite at that 6-inch mark yet. However, last year I did take some smaller parts and they still rooted just fine and grew plenty of sweet potatoes. So if you're at the point where you're running out of time and you have to get these things in the soil, you can definitely take these smaller ones, break them off at the sweet potato, and they will root for you. Now, as I mentioned, these are going to keep producing slips, even in those spots that we snipped off with the scissors. So once you have enough sweet potato plants in your garden, if you want to, you can keep sprouting these and keep rooting them. Give them away to friends, family, neighbors, or even find a new spot in your garden or yard to plant more sweet potatoes. All right, so I went through and I took off everything that I thought was worthy of taking at this point. Everything else here we're going to let continue growing till they get a little bit bigger. I did take some that were a bit smaller, maybe around the 3-inch height or so, and I know they're going to root just fine. I had no issues with them last year, but we do need to get these in the garden ASAP because we're in mid-June right now. So even if I get these ones rooted that I have right here, plant them in the garden, in a week or so, these will be a bit taller. But as of right now, we got about 25 slips that I've taken off this so far. I got a bunch of these individual leaves and smaller parts of the vine that were left over. I'm probably going to stick them in some water just to see if they root. If they do, awesome, we'll have more plants. If not, then we just toss them in the compost. But other than that, that's the second step of the process after you chit your sweet potatoes. Once you get those slips growing, snip them off, stick them in some water, get them rooted, stick them out in the garden. I hope this video was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing. We'll see you in the next video.